Hi everyone, I'm Greg from Pilot Institute. We train drone pilots all over the country.
Hi, my name is Haye from DroneXL, where we cover all the drone news on our website.
Welcome to the latest episode of the PiXL Drone Show, our weekly podcast where we talk to industry professionals about what they do in the UAS space.
From professionals who use drone to fly inspection missions to public safety users or even drone light shows, you will learn on the PiXL Drone Show that drones are much more than just toys. Hello and welcome everybody. Today we have Matt Isenbarger from Freefly Systems on the PiXL Drone Show, and we're very excited to have him back. Matt was on our show, what was it, about a year ago, I think, when we were talking mostly about the Astro. Today we're talking about another new drone product. And Matt, why don't you get us back up to speed and tell us what the latest is with Freefly?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show again, guys. Excited to be here. We have lots of new, fun technology to talk about today, and lots more coming down the pipeline. So the latest thing that we've recently announced for Astro is a new radio variant that uses Doodle Labs 2.4 gigahertz radios. Those are NDA compliant, and we've got it blue listed by the Defense Innovation Unit. So that's really fantastic. And then we also had several payloads that were approved. And so working with DIU, one of the things that I had been fighting for is, hey, let's make it easier to swap between configurations, right? Maybe there's different radios, different payloads, different ground control stations that customers want to use. And we want to make those more interoperable and less frozen in those configurations. So they've actually created a framework. In addition to the blue list, there's components on this framework now. So our cameras, our gimbals, our batteries, our remote controller, all that stuff is now part of the framework because it's compliant, and other companies can now adopt our tools and integrate them onto their aircraft or their robotic systems to use as well and know that they're compliant. So we've got the Sony A7 that we've been shipping for about the last 2 years that was added. But the latest camera from Sony is the LR1. And so we've just updated that payload in our gimbal. Same 61 megapixel sensor, but it's really intended for drones now. And they removed a bunch of things that reduce the weight and give us an extra 4 or 5 minutes of flight time. The other cool feature about this new gimbal is we've added mounting points and a USB hub so that you can add accessories. Think thermal cores, laser rangefinders, spotlights, etc. And so we're going to have these updated modules for you over time that we will produce that are very easy to plug and play and upgrade over time. Or customers will be able to add their own preference of sensors and modules should they have a specific configuration that we are not selling directly. So I don't know if you can see it here in my background, but I've got Astro over here on over my shoulder with the new LR1 on there. And the thermal core here is the FLIR 640 by 512 radiometric boson. So that's just will be one of the options as one of those upgrades for the new LR1.
Yeah, I saw on your website for the Astro that there's something interesting going on with the propeller design, right? And the size and some of the benefits that you guys get from that. Can you tell us more about the propeller design and what makes the Astro Prime so different?
Yeah, so putting bigger props on any aircraft is challenging because it introduces all sorts of vibration and other things that you don't want if you want smooth video footage or good looking pictures. And so it's really, really challenging to design those large props that give you that long extended flight time, but still keep your aircraft agile and moving quickly and how you want it to. So it's really takes a ton of time and testing and specific firmware engineering knowledge on how to write motor drive firmware to make these motor drives and electronic speed controllers really snappy and responsive, but also efficient, right, and get those long flight times. So pretty tricky, but we managed to do it. And I think Astro flies as good or better than any drone out there, and really excited about what our customers are doing with it.
What's the payload capability on that?
So we have 2 aircraft right now, Alta X and Astro. The bigger aircraft, Alta X, can carry 35 pounds of payload, and Astro can carry about 3.5 pounds of payload. So much smaller. I think I got the Alta X over here. They're both folded down, so hard to tell the difference. But yeah, that's the payload capacity for each.
Can you talk about the Artarian software that you guys are using for controlling all this? Is that a new thing? Is that something that's been established? What's the reason with Artarian? Talk more about that.
Yeah, so both of our drones use PX4-based flight controllers. The Alta X uses a cube, and the Astro uses a version of the Artarian Skynode that we just take their reference design and license that from them and actually design it a little bit different than their standard Skynode flight controller and manufacture it ourselves. And so because of those core components are PX4 based and speaking Mavlink protocols, you can use kind of any software out there that works with those protocols. But we test and ship with Artarian mission control on Astro and Q ground control on Alta X as our most common option. And those softwares come free with each system in perpetuity. There's no subscriptions or additional costs. It comes with the system for the life of the aircraft. And with Artarian specifically, they've been core in the creation and development of PX4 and a lot of the open source code out there that exists for flying drones. So that just helped accelerate our timeline using their software engineers to help accelerate that development. And they also have a bunch of other cool features that come with Astro for free. So in addition to the flight planning software, Artarian Mission Control that has all sorts of capabilities in it, there's an Artarian Suite, which is a cloud service. Anybody that has an Astro can opt into it for free. There's no cost. You don't have to opt into it. But if you do opt into it, it gives you all sorts of maintenance and stats on the health of your aircraft, how many times you've charged the batteries, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really cool fleet maintenance tool. And then there's subscription levels above the free tier that you can do things like live streaming back to somewhere remotely with an internet connection, or even control your drone over LTE.
Yeah. So if somebody has some experience flying drones and let's say all of a sudden they're going to learn how to fly an Astro Prime, like how hard is it for somebody to learn to fly a much more, bigger, more capable drone?
Yeah, I don't think it's any harder. I think with all the sensors and autonomy that we packed in here, it's fairly straightforward. If you're a DJI flyer, I don't think you're going to really find it much different than your M300 experience in terms of getting up to speed. But we always recommend training. The guys over at Pilot Institute do a good job, and we have our own one-day training here, operator training as well. So encourage folks to definitely take advantage of that.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
I can imagine. And now that the drone is NDAA compliant, does that open up a whole new market for you guys in terms of dealing with defense contractors, local law enforcement? Is that what you're going after? Or?
Yeah, it's really federal government agencies. Yeah. So the DIU Blue List was intended for DoD strictly, but all of these other federal government agencies have kind of defaulted to the Blue List as like, hey, this gets me my compliance that I need, and it checks a whole bunch of boxes. So we have large blanket purchase agreements set up with Department of Interior, U.S. Forest Service, other federal government agencies, and this is just another way for them to know that these products are compliant and meeting the regulatory needs that they have.
Other than that, who's the target customer for those aircraft?
So Astro, we got our start in the cinema world. So quickly dominated the cinema space, over the last 12 or so years. And if you've seen a show on Netflix or a movie in the movie theaters, probably had a Freefly product on set. Not only do we make drones, but we make high-speed cameras and handheld gimbals and other products. But I've really, the last 3-4 years that I've been with the team here, we've been really moving into all these other commercial and industrial applications. So surveying and mapping is a really big one for us, especially with Alta X, being able to carry 35 pounds, a lot of those heavier LIDARs and big phase 1 cameras and things like that for surveying and mapping. And then inspection applications are also a key customer group of ours. So anything from power line and utility management to pipeline and gas infrastructure, et cetera. A lot of Department of Transportation work around bridges, tunnels, roads, et cetera.
So for you guys to be successful in all these different markets, let's say for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what do you need in order to serve these customers even better? Do you still need a different kind of drone, or do you need more software applications, or what is it that would hold you back and would be a big breakthrough potentially if you had access to that?
Sure. I think payloads is the biggest thing, right? We have these super robust, reliable platforms that can do a whole bunch of different things, but it's just making the payload integration super easy and simple for the customer, and also those workflows that come with those particular payloads. So one of the recent payloads that we added to Astro is the Emescent Hovermap. And this is an incredible LiDAR product that the head spins around 360 degrees. So unlike traditional LiDARs, which just point down straight at the ground traditionally, this LiDAR is spinning around and capturing vertical relief in the sides of buildings or trees or underneath a bridge, for example. So it's a really incredible LiDAR product just in terms of data capture. But the other really cool feature of it is it provides autonomy for Astro. So Astro now has complete obstacle avoidance and collision avoidance with this payload on there. It's creating a map of its surrounding in real time and then navigating through that map without running into anything. So really powerful payload, both in terms of data collection and autonomy. But there's a whole bunch of other payloads out there, multispectral sensors for ag, et cetera. The list goes on, and we certainly can't make all of these payloads ourselves. So we're trying to remain as open and collaborative as possible to work with these sensor manufacturers. We have an interface standard that we've created. It's an open standard. It's similar to the DJI Skyport, but we don't charge a licensing fee. There's no cost. All the CAD and engineering pinout is online. So any sensor manufacturer can go grab that off our website, build it into their payload, and now it just becomes plug and play. So we call that the smart dovetail. And that's what all our payloads connect to the bottom of Astro with. And we encourage any other sensor or gimbal or payload manufacturers to also adopt that standard. And there's even other drone companies like Inspired Flight who have adopted that same connector too. So this whole kind of payload ecosystem can grow out around it and support these various aircraft.
Wow. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, the drone is just a carrier, right? It's just one component in an entire daisy chain of hardware, software, and a workflow creation. The LiDAR system, does that also allow you to fly indoors? Let's say if you fly into a nuclear power plant like what we had in Japan, and would your drone be able to fly inside and still stay clear of any obstacles?
Absolutely. That's one of the great technologies built into the hover map. It can fly without GPS. The drone doesn't require any GPS. There's no light required. Completely dark, underground, in a building, what have you, capability.
Awesome.
And that's pretty quick. That's like real-time analysis. So what creates a 3D environment of where you are and just flies through?
Exactly. So this is our new Pilot Pro controller that ships with both Astro and Alta X. And so on this tablet here, you're getting it's a sparse point cloud. It's not all of the data that the LiDAR is actually collecting, but showing you a representation of that point cloud in real time over our long range radio. So, you can fly this several kilometers or miles away.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started recording that you have customers doing that in mines underground. I'm assuming it's still somewhat line of sight, aka getting the signal to the controller. Is that right, or do you have a way to get past that?
Yeah, there's a way to get past that. So there's settings in there, and you can kind of set your safety bubble, if you will, in terms of how close you get to things, how far it can go out of range of link. But because it's creating this map, it can always basically go home the same way that it came, theoretically. And so it just turns back around, tries to follow that same path home. If there's something in the way, it'll make some slight adjustment and then come back and return the land. So if you're flying in that mining environment without GPS, you actually just set virtual waypoint and say, hey, I want you to go from point A to point B and figure out how to get there.
Gotcha.
Is there so with Teslas and self-driving, we've seen that sometimes cars had issues recognizing static objects like a big truck parked across a highway. How does that work with drones and LiDAR? Like if you fly through the mine, most of the obstacles will be fixed or static, you would imagine. But if something were to be moved or changed, would it still allow and adjust on the fly?
It depends on the situation exactly, but it kind of works opposite of the cars in that static is great. It very well understands static things. It's the bird flying across in front of you or, something along those lines that we would have a hard time understanding, something coming at you. If it's a tree maybe in the distance that's swaying a little bit, totally fine. But if it's something that's rapidly flying at you or driving at you, it doesn't have a way to necessarily avoid those objects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. You mentioned wanting to get into a different type of market. Obviously, you guys reduced the size of the drone now with the new platform. Any hints to getting into the consumer market eventually?
I definitely don't think we'll be in the consumer market. Maybe we'll make a smaller drone at some point that is just smaller. And as we get some sensors that are tightly integrated and coupled into the drone, I think that could make sense for us in the future. We'd also love to do a fixed wing VTOL, in the future as well.
For mapping, yeah,
and maybe something just in between Astro and Alta X as well, kind of size that carry that 10, 15 pound payload size. So there's lots of things that we're exploring in terms of aircraft, lots of things that we're exploring in terms of payloads, talking to a bunch of different partners about software in terms of autonomy, adding computer vision and things like that. So lots of fun, interesting things on the roadmap, and we're going to share some of those new products here at August 22nd at our annual Freefly Fest. Welcome anybody to come out to that. Just a free day of demos here in Carnation, Washington, and so reach out to us if you want any more info on that.
Do any of your customers use your drones since they're highly adjustable and have quite some ability to carry payloads? Do people use them for drone deliveries at all or no?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have several customers doing that. Drone as a first responder, drone delivery, etc. One of my favorite use cases is Archer First Response Systems. They've made a drone in the box, shell for Alta X. 911 call comes in. This is in Orlando area in Florida, and they cover a 30 square mile radius. And it goes out. The Alta X goes out and delivers via tether a AED defibrillator to someone having a heart attack on the golf course, or Narcan to an addict overdosing, or first aid to somebody else. So they have all these prepackaged payloads ready to go, and as soon as the call comes in, it's a very automated thing that goes out and delivers these and responds in real time to 911 calls. So that and other fun examples for sure in package delivery, and seeing more and more of that use case.
I do want to ask you, you're an American drone manufacturer. There's been a lot of things in the news about American drone manufacturers and obviously the Chinese ban. So I want to touch a little bit on this. From your perspective as an American drone manufacturer, what does it take? What are the current limitations that you have to take you to the next level, to be able to produce more drones, to be able to produce more different types of drones? What is the limitation that allows you to get to a DJI level, if that's ever even where you guys want to go with this? But help our viewers kind of understand your side of things from an American drone manufacturer perspective.
Sure. And I have a quite unique, perspective because of my experience working at DJI for several years as well, and then a DoD contractor in between then and Freefly. So I've kind of seen it all. Making drones is extremely difficult, especially at scale. It's pretty easy to make a handful of them, but when you're making hundreds or thousands of them reliably and repeatably, very difficult. Not even just from a production standpoint, but from a supply chain standpoint, from a financial cash flow standpoint, all that's very challenging to keep millions and millions of dollars in inventory constantly coming in and trying to go out at the same time. So lots of challenges, too many to go into now, but Freefly has taken a little bit different road than most. So most of the other drone companies out there, manufacturers out there, are venture-backed or have some large investors. Freefly is completely private, started in mom's garage. We don't owe anybody any money. We don't have any venture capitalists telling us what to do. So we're taking a much more methodical approach and trying to kind of build on each thing that we do slowly and iterate. And so that's really been kind of our approach, is to build one piece of the puzzle and then just kind of add to that. And so I think to get to the scale of DJI, it would just take several years and a lot of money. I don't think that's going to happen overnight for anybody. No matter how much money you raise, there's the Skydeos out there, for example, who have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're not shipping nearly the same amount of volume as DJI still. So there's no golden bullet. There's no easy, quick solution. It just takes time. It takes experience. It takes a lot of things to get customers into your ecosystem. But I think we've done a great job of delivering on performance and quality, and our customers repeatedly come back to us for that and have great things to say about Freefly. We don't have a sales team. We don't spend any money on marketing. So anything you've ever seen about or heard Freefly, it's all very natural and organic and word of mouth. So I think we certainly could run faster and do some of those things and spend more money on marketing, et cetera. But we're really product focused. We're really just focused on the highest performance at a reasonable price, kind of ratio. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah,
something to be said about that.
Over the years of reporting on drone news, what I've heard a lot of people say is that it's not just that DJI is a big company, but DJI based in Shenzhen, China, has access to all these suppliers. So if you're working on a new prototype, you can just go out across the street theoretically and get whatever you need, or sit down with people to develop components. I guess the only thing we have that's somewhat comparable is maybe Silicon Valley when it comes to software and tech companies. Do you see a role at all for the US government to try to establish, let's say, a Silicon type Valley environment, but then purely for drone industry, where you get all these drone companies working together and create like an ecosystem that way? Or do you think that should be approached differently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a free market guy, so I think the market should figure it out on its own, and less government, the better, in my opinion. But, it's one of those things where China just has a different structure set up, and their government is heavily involved, and they do a great job of coalescing these similar products and ideas and even putting them into certain territories. Like they have this whole region that's, based around tech and developing, this kind of electronic technology in Shenzhen. So, I don't think the government should be too involved. I think we should just try to work harder and be smarter and make better performing things. But there's lots of interesting government regulatory stuff coming right now. So,
do you think that banning a drone manufacturer based on country of origin or implying tariffs, is that the way to go in your mind to keep a young growing ecosystem alive here in the US? Or
no, I don't think banning anything that is unless it's nefarious, should be done. And so I think there's easy ways to help bolster our volumes here in the U.S. by requiring the government and other particular buyers to buy, more American-made products like they have been. But, flat-out bans just seems a little bit restrictive and overbearing. I just don't think there's a huge opportunity for anyone that can come in and swoop up kind of on the consumer side quickly there for DJI. There's a lot of players in kind of the enterprise and professional space, right, that have their own niches and can perform just as well or better than DJI. But on the consumer side of things, there's just no one out there that's competing right now, in my opinion.
Do you believe that to be able to compete at the higher level and be able to produce more, you'd need to get involved in the consumer market? And again, I know you said you don't really want to do this on your side, but to me, it's always been like it's a volume thing. You can get your cost down by a ton by being able to produce volume, but you can't do volume unless you get to start touching the consumer market. What are your thoughts on that?
If labor was cheaper, yes. But unfortunately, labor in the U.S. is very expensive, and so it just doesn't end up working out like that as easily as it sounds like it would. So, I think the enterprise space is where we want to go. We want to keep reaching for the highest performing thing. We're not going to target consumer products anytime soon. That's DJI's done a great job of kind of blending that line between consumer and professional, prosumer, if you will. And so, I think it's just, unless they do get banned, I don't think there's enough opportunity for us or others to go.
Yeah, and then a follow-up question on that too. You're NDA compliant for a version of your drone, if we can say that. Is it difficult to get parts and to get that supply chain for these components that are not Chinese components? Do you see that being an issue going forward? Just being able to get the parts as more people get into the market and try to do the same thing possibly that you do?
Yeah, it's generally not a problem to get the components that are compliant. They're just always more expensive. So, it's what do you want to pay for? We can make you the same thing in 3 different iterations, and the parts come from 3 different places, and they just cost more money depending on where they come from. So it's a hard thing. We've traditionally always just bought the best price to performance thing, no matter what country that was made in. And that's what we were offering our customers. The last several years, with more of these restrictions and compliance issues, we've just tried to listen to our customers and offer them solutions for those challenges that they have. But it's never been our key focus is country of origin. It's purely price to performance.
What kind of price differential is there? Let's say if you have a drone at a $20,000 price point, if you need to make that NDAA compliant, how much more expensive would that be relatively if you make it compliant?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that number off the top of my head, but roughly 25% more expensive, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
Less than I thought, actually.
Yeah, you could definitely go higher than that, but at least 25%.
Yeah. But not every single one of your customers need that. Your government customers might need that, but your enterprise would not.
That's right. Yeah. So we have these different variants with different radio modules. We have Chinese radio options. We have American-made radio options. So we try to cater to as many folks as we can and help them with those challenges. But there's always a new regulatory issue to worry about. So.
Have you seen any kind of uptick in sales with the DJI ban hanging over the market like a dark cloud? Are people delaying their purchases to see what's going to happen next, or are they switching to different customers, to suppliers, so for instance, Freefly? Or
absolutely, yeah. So we've both, actually seen the sales increase, but also just fielding a ton of calls from concerned folks that are doing their due diligence now in case it happens. There's large enterprises with 400, 500, 600, DJI M300s. What do they do if all of a sudden 500 drones, they can't use those or they can't buy any new ones? What do they do? So a lot of these large enterprises are talking to us right now about making that transition. And I think, the ban has scared them enough that it may happen that they're, starting to buy a few here and there to test out and make sure their software workflows still work and, all of that. And so they're getting ready for whether it happens or not, moving in that direction.
It's no surprise, really, I guess, right? I mean, if a consumer buys a drone, you buy whatever, you buy an Air 3, you go fly your drone, everything is good. If you're an enterprise and you have 100 drones, you need to train people, you have workflows and payloads and schedules, and it's way more complicated, of course, at that scale than if you're just a consumer buying a drone. So it makes sense that they would, treat this differently and be more thoughtful in their process, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had one of them tell me yesterday that if I make a multi-bay charger for the Astro, that they have 350 aircraft that they're ready to replace with Astro.
Oh, that's good motivation.
Wow. There you go. Making a multi-bay charger, I guess.
except then you have to build 350 of those. How long does it take to build one of those drones, roughly?
It just depends on kind of, they're built in sub-assemblies, right? And so we build a whole batch of sub-assemblies of the bottom chassis and the top chassis and the blah, blah, blah. So, but you could build 20 in a day, no problem. But they generally get built over, a week or two kind of in these sub-assemblies.
Yeah. Is that how, you basically set the course and do product innovation? Is it all driven by consumer demand, like the questions they come with to you and the demands that they have? Is that what guides you with Freefly as to, okay, what are we going to develop next?
Yeah, we're really in touch with our customer base and trying to always understand what their needs are. The initial drive was, the founders of Freefly were actually on movie sets filming, and so they were just trying to create products for themselves to capture this imagery instead of using a helicopter and all these traditional methods. They just wanted to create products to remove barriers to capture this imagery. So that's what drove us initially, and now it's definitely staying tuned into our customers and hearing their needs.
Yeah. Can you talk more about the Freefly Fest that you guys have coming around in August? Maybe give more information to people. Where is it going to be? What can they expect? Can they get tickets? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a free event from noon to 4 on August 22nd in Carnation, Washington. We're going to host a whole bunch of our partners as well. So whether you want to see LIDAR or multispectral or high resolution RGB or thermal or whatever it may be, we'll have all those partners there and the experts there so you can talk to them directly. We invited all of our customers out and folks that have expressed interest in it. And we're going to have barbecue, and it's just a very informal day to watch demos, technical exchange between folks, network, meet others in the industry, talk to the entire Freefly team, give us feedback on how we can improve. And it's just a really fun day. So super casual. Love to have anybody out there that's interested. Reach out to us, support@freeflysystems.com. We can send you the address and details on everything on how to get there and what's the schedule for the day is going to be. But we'll also hopefully launch some new products and get people excited about the future as well.
Awesome. Are you guys going to be at any of the expos or conventions this year still, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a booth at Commercial UAV Expo out in Las Vegas this year. So hoping to launch a new product there as well shortly after Freefly Fest, and that should be a fun one.
Yeah. And if we fast forward 5 years from now, where's Freefly going to be? Like, what would you like to see happen? Like, what do you need? More people, more money, different kind of drone? Like, what's the big picture?
Yeah, we were really trying to build out this drone ecosystem, right? So we've got two airframes right now, 4 or 5 payloads, but really just kind of expanding on that, right? There is no one size fits all tool for any of these customers. So we know, based on specific applications, we need to develop a certain set of tools and software capabilities. So really just building out that ecosystem, working with our partners. We're a small team of 50 people, again, self-funded. We don't have millions of dollars in the war chest to go hire like crazy and spend a bunch of time on marketing and other things. So just going to be really focused on the core development of building out this open ecosystem of products that are extremely high performing and reliable, but also making it easy for others to work with us and add their own widgets, add their own software, customize things as much as you want. We never want to block anyone or restrict anyone in any way, and just let people be successful.
That's awesome. A great philosophy. That's a great philosophy. Please continue and push for continuing to do this. I think this is so needed in this environment. You're pretty much the only company I can think of that builds drones with this kind of mentality. So that's kudos to you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're trying to get everybody on board. It's a hard road. Takes a village, as they say. So we can't do it alone.
Well, that's why you guys are still around and why you're still growing, right? I mean, we've seen plenty of drone companies come and go in the last 5 to 10 years. So we're excited that you guys are still here. I wish I was able to be there on the 22nd in August. Sounds like it's going to be a great event, but me being in New York, it's a little hard perhaps. The last question, now that we're coming to the end of the show, basically, and thank you for coming here and sharing everything about the Astro drone and about Freefly. But we always end the show with our this question: what is your favorite drone to fly? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Freefly drone; can be pretty much anything.
My favorite drone to fly. There's a lot of these FPV drones that we have hanging out here around the office. As you can imagine, we've got people after hours that are constantly building fun little projects. This one here, if I can go off screen for a second. This bad boy is carrying our high-speed Ember camera, so 5K, thousands frames per second. cinema camera on there. So stuff like this is really fun to fly. But Alta X has kind of always been probably my favorite drone ever to fly. The first time you fly an Alta X, it's just incredible that the power that you have in your hands and how quiet it is, right? It's kind of this juxtaposition of, I can carry 35 pounds of payload on this massive drone, but it just sounds so quiet because those big, slow spinning props are just a different sound than anything you've really ever heard. And, those are some of my favorite drones.
That's awesome. Wait, is that
Awesome.
a home built,
Actually,
or is that a Sicario? Because we have a Sicario that looks just like that.
Yeah, I don't even know what that one actually is. That's Ansel, one of our FPV pilots.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool looking.
Endless amounts of FPV, tiny whoops, and other things flying around. We've got little banners, and tunnels and hoops and stuff hanging from the ceiling all over the place. So you got to watch your neck, watch your back. There's constantly tiny whoops coming overhead.
This actually does bring up another question, though. Like we've seen in movies that the use of FPV drones has increased quite a bit because of the spectacular shots that you can get. We've also seen among law enforcement that they're using more FPV-style drones to get inside of buildings and make sure that an environment is safe. Would that potentially be a future drone for Freefly to come up with an FPV-style drone?
Yeah, absolutely. I could see us doing that.
Yeah.
I think there's more and more customers who are interested in that. And, by all means, I think that'd be a great product for us.
Awesome. Well, we'd be definitely looking forward to you guys developing such a drone. That'd be pretty amazing. Matt, thank you so much for being on the PiXL Drone Show today. Thank you for your time. And to everybody listening or watching to the PiXL Drone Show, please like us, please subscribe, please share it with your friends and family. The bigger we can grow our audience, the more it helps the show and the more episodes we can make. So thank you guys for watching, listening, and hopefully we'll be back with the next episode shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.